Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Slap in VR, so called because I am your host, Vincent Rodriguez, and we talk all things here sports, life, and people. Today, I am more than honored and humbled to have the bald man himself, the perpetual failure of the New York Giants, the LolMets, and Kadarious Toney's all time biggest fan, Mr. 5 Points Vids, Mr. Adam Jackson. Welcome, sir.
How you doing? Good to
I'm
be
doing
here.
I'm doing all right. We're hopping on this just right after work. So a little exhaustion there, but we're gonna get through this and make sure this is all fantastic. And I would be remiss if the very first question I did not ask you come from that salty yinzer himself, because I asked him when I have you on, what's the first question I should ask five? And basically what he said was, what was going through your mind when you first decided to put the plungers on your head?
I always want to put on a good show, and I knew that it would work, and I knew that it would get a good laugh, and I thought it would be funny, and it ended up being pretty funny. So I just wanted to have fun with it. Um and it was just we were having a good time, but after it was on, I saw how dirty it was. And Then I was like, oh geez. But it was still, yeah, the one thing I wanted to do was just have a good time with it, and I think we all did, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. It was one of the highlights of the night for that particular dumpster fire draft stream. So I just kind of want to start at the beginning here. We'll just try and cram as much of 5 Points Fits journey as we can in here. So you're originally from Alabama. That is that correct?
Yeah, I was born in Alabama. I lived there for about 10 years. My dad was in the military, and grew up an Auburn fan, but didn't really stay long enough to get ingrained into any type of Alabama culture or anything like that. So
So does the name 5 Points Vince come from that town in Chambers County, 5 Points?
no, not at all. 5 Points Vids was just I originally started doing Madden videos, and I was gonna provide 5 points of information with each video. Like I wanted to do like top, because everyone was doing top 10 countdowns, and I thought ten's too many. I don't have the patience to sit through 10 items. So I was like, how about I cut it to five? And then yeah, that's kind of how 5 point, and then it's also a shout out to the movie Gangs in New York, because that's where they're all from, the 5 points. And yeah, Bill the Butcher, played by Daniel Day Lewis, is such a great character. So it's just it's kind of all those things combined. And there's a 5 points in New York and all that. And it just kind of came all together.
So speaking of New York, was that kind of your in between destination between Alabama and then where you started making your roots in Virginia?
No, my dad was from northern New Jersey, and he had family in New York, and we would go there all the time for family functions. And he was a Mets fan, and I kind of, I like the Mets. I like the colors, the blue and orange, complementary colors. I fell in love with the Mets, but I've never actually lived in New York. And I don't actually, what's funny is a lot of people assume that I live or am from New York. I don't think I would ever live in the New York City. I mean, every time I go there, I like it, but it's just like Las Vegas. It kind of has a shelf life. Like, you can only spend a certain amount of time. And a lot of people will tell you that when they move to the city, they get, they get sick of it, you know, and I'm not surprised. Like, New York can wear on you. It's a great city, don't get me wrong. It's a lot of fun, and it's a marvel of humanity, but it does have a it has a timer on it, for sure.
So where did the Giants fandom come from then?
So my dad wasn't he was a Met fan and I love the Mets. And then, the first year I liked them was 85. They fell short. They finished in second place. The next year that I really got into them, they ended up winning the World Series. And then I'd always loved football. Like as to no influence by my dad at all. My dad really wasn't into football at all. He didn't sit there and watch football on Sundays. He was not into that. He only liked baseball. And then I was like, oh, well, if I like the Mets, there's got to be a football team in New York. And then I was assumed that the Giants, because they were blue and had similar colors, I thought that that was the team that I was supposed to like. And I like them, and they win the freaking Super Bowl their first year. I was like, "Oh, this is easy." I just picked the Mets, they win the World Series, then the Giants, they win a Super Bowl. I had no idea how special and how difficult it is to win a Super Bowl. And yeah, I like the colors. And then I've always been there's a lot of Mets and Giants fans that are my age for almost the same reasons. Like they didn't know any better. And thank God that I picked the Giants, because if I had to sit through this, not only be a Jet fan and just watch, them be terrible, but then watch your crosstown rival win consistently. And I mean, it's been bad for a while, for the past 10 or so years, but um it's just overall fandom wise has been good. Mets probably a bad move ultimately, but yeah, and then it just kind of expanded from there. Being a Giants fan, I was like, my dad had zero interest in basketball and really wasn't all that into hockey. And I was like, "Oh, I guess the Knicks, they're blue and orange too. I like them." And then the Rangers, even though the Isles were blue and orange, I started really getting to hockey into the early '90s, and of course, they go out and win a Stanley Cup when I was 17. And but the Knicks still haven't done shit, so I'm still waiting for that to happen. That was a bad move. I'd say the Nets have come closer to actually winning a championship than the Knicks ever. I mean, the Knicks came really close in '94. They should have gotten it done, but they just didn't. They squandered an opportunity for sure.
So you went to college at VCU. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So after my dad retired from the military, we did end up living in Virginia. And I was an artist, art major, and VCU has one of the best art programs in the country. So I ended up going there. And I kind of fell in love with the city of Richmond. It's like a city, but it's not as bad as New York. It's not as crowded. It's a lot more manageable, and that's where I've been, geez, since college. I just kind of stayed. I like the town.
So on ClickBait, we've been able to see your kind of artistry with the Odell, boat painting. But what was it? But what was it specifically about art that kind of drew you to it and made you want to study that fully as your major?
It's funny because art's the only thing I really liked doing. I have undiagnosed ADHD, and um it's the only thing I could really concentrate on. Even as a young kid, I was all over the place. But you hand me crayons and paper, I could just get going, and I would be occupied. And I always like creating things, and I always like that satisfaction of starting and finishing a project of some kind. And so when I graduated high school, I had a horrible GPA, didn't really qualify for any colleges at all because I just couldn't concentrate. And a lot of times, if you have a learning challenge like ADHD, no one cares. They're just like, oh, they look at you as a problem, you
Especially
know.
back in especially back in your time when it kind of
Yeah.
didn't become as popular and more recognized as it is now.
Yeah, there's a huge stigma around it, and, Ritalin was the only treatment that was out there, and Ritalin is a sev s intense stimulant, and it has a lot of, side effects and health risks associated, and then, Adderall and Vyvanse and all these other treatments that have come along, are much better than Ritalin. But, back then, there was a stigma associated to putting your child on any type of treatment or even talking about it, like, and you were just looked at as wrong. And it's awful to be told, that because you can't stand still, that you're the problem, that you're the one with the deficiency. And so I never really got help with that. Like, if I would have been able to get Adderall or Vyvanse or something, I could probably have concentrated better, or just had a curriculum or programs that now, they're doing better around people that have these learning ailments. But the one thing is, like, I could concentrate. I can also hyper focus on uh things at the same time. So art was the only thing that I could hyper focus on as I was getting going through life. So when I finished high school, I was like, all right, let me decide what I want to do. And I was like, well, the only way I can get a degree is to do something that I actually enjoy doing, because otherwise I don't see school as worth my time. It's really, I'm going to be looked at as someone who's just wasting other people's time. And but I did art, and I was luckily talented enough to at least get in both into VCU at some point. I went to a community college, and then I went to VCU, and then I got into an elite program inside of VCU. And then from then, it was pretty easy to stay concentrated once I figured out, hey, I mean, I still struggle with it, but as long as it's something I know that I have an interest in, that I can handle, and that I actually give a shit about, like, I can knuckle down and do it, instead of
Did,
just, being forced to do quadratic equations or divide fractions like that. To me, it's like, okay, I can understand that stuff, I can do it. I'm not interested in it. There's no um doesn't stimulate me at all. To the people that can just go through the classes and do that and get 4.0, 4.2 GPAs and actually not fall asleep, like, I admire that level of both patience and ability, for sure,
did you
because
ever
I
get
can't do it.
featured? Sorry. Did you ever get featured at any like art galleries or maybe sell like a piece or something while you're during your time at VCU?
No, it's, like, I'm kind of just above average at a lot of things, and I was an above average artist. Like, I wouldn't say even I'm an above average baseball player, like, or an athlete. I was just competent enough to not embarrass myself, but no one's gonna look at me and be like, "Damn, that guy can freaking play." Usually it's like, oh, okay, that guy's solid. That's how I was with art. Like, I was good enough, but then I saw my roommate, who was just unreal. Like, he was so good. He was 2 times more talented and twice as fast, and he also had the persistence to get through a whole project. And I was like, "Man, if there's dudes out here like this, then I need to probably think of a different profession." And also, I mean, I like money, and I knew I wasn't gonna make enough money, um being an illustrator or an artist. So I just kind of pivoted to graphic design, which I knew I was more employable at. And then from there I went into marketing, which I was even better at.
So would you say there was like a particular style of art or drawing or anything that kind of one drew you into that world in the first place, or then became your inspiration for what you try to do in your art?
Oh yeah, graffiti style for sure. Like, I would, I was in the first wave of the internet and I would see people at first I was like, all right, let me try to figure this out. Then I started seeing on the internet how other people did graffiti. And now graffiti is amazing. Like the amount of resources and pages that, if I was a kid now, I would have, a graffiti um art account because I was really good at it. Like I if there's anything that I would say I'm above average at is graffiti style art. Like I was pretty good at that. But that influenced a lot of my art, which doesn't translate well to a classroom, of course. They're just like, oh, you have to draw the character real. And I'm just like, I can do that, but I don't I did learn a lot though. Like I still, I can still draw, I can still paint, I can do a lot of things. I just don't have the time to do it. Maybe someday if I ever well, by the time I retire, I'll just be too old to fucking do anything, but um art is still fun. Like, I can get into it and start drawing again, but then, after a while I get busy.
Yeah, and so is that love of kind of graffiti style art, is that, like, kind of why you brought up, like, rat paint last night in the dumpster fire. Is that kind of where that inspiration draws from?
Yeah, I mean, I had as someone who was an art major, like you want to be aware of popular art and other artists that have come before you. Whether I wouldn't say an encyclopedia of art history. I get like if I watch Jeopardy, I might get 2 out of the 5 questions correct in the art history category and, I'm not gonna I know that what's his name? Munch painted the Scream and I definitely like Dali and the great artists, but I wouldn't say that I'm terribly versed in art history, but I know more than it's like I know more than a person that knows nothing about it, we'll say that. But I also don't know as much as, say, a professor, you know?
Yeah, so, is your kind of love of art and then your pivot to graphic design why you seem to have such that hyperfixation and love for stadium design and architecture?
Oh, for sure, 100%. I mean, I just love what's funny is, like, I love stadium architecture because at the end of the day, it is a piece of art, it is like a cathedral of some kind. It's and even more so now that, stadiums are becoming such a focal point of architecture and it's attracting all this money and value from our not only our society but um and commerce and things like that. It's just to me they're pieces of art. The other thing I really like, honestly, I like highway engineering for some reason. That is very aesthetic and functional, and they're not trying to be pretty at all. They're just trying to get you from point A to B, and I think that is also extremely has a pleasant aesthetic to it. But stadiums to me, like now they're getting into areas where they're like, all right, we can make it functional, but also pleasing to the eye because they know that the more pleasing and the more attractive a stadium is, the more it's going to attract people to come and spend money there.
So, it's a simple question, but I'm legitimately curious. So, if you're into stuff like highway and freeway design and all that, like, when you go on road trips, do you actually kind of, like, seek out the major highways just to kind of
Oh, it's
see
not
what they look
yeah. Yeah, it's not that deep. I just, if I go into a complex intersection and I'm studying all the veins and the arrangement of it, like I like looking at it. I like seeing where they solved a problem. But it's not something where I would be like, that might be something in the future, that might be a completely interesting YouTube channel, someone with like a Zach Hampel type love of highway interchange. I'm sure there's one out there
Oh, yeah.
already. It's just it hasn't hit mainstream, but someday, stadiums to me has such a broader appeal than highway interchanges. So I will not be, doing a highway interchange seeking anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, like the first time I ever learned about what a diamond interchange was because I found a YouTube video of it randomly. And I'm like, oh, they're gonna build one in Vegas. I guess next time I go to Vegas, I'll check that out just to kind of see how the hell the thing works going, across a whole different lanes of traffic and then back right out. And it's like, whoa.
I'm I'm shocked by how geeky people get about these things. Buildings are buildings, and they're all interesting. Like you saw this trend in China, and where they were just starting to build crazy building after crazy building, and those are fine. But like to me, there's things like stadiums, highway interchanges. I don't really geek out on buildings as much because when everybody tries to be different, everyone looks the same at some point. And to me, that's why it's the aesthetic of stadiums. There's a small enough pool so that that. And in fact, you've seen trends over time where the neoclassic baseball stadium got too trendy, and they just kind of looked all the same at one point. So um but buildings aren't as exciting to me as either stadiums or highway interchanges.
So in your opinion, I guess, and you can narrow it down by sport if you want, but just across like all the major sports, is there like one or two particular stadiums that you would say like, yes, you absolutely need to visit this just to behold the site and the detail that they go into?
Yeah, at some point I want to get on the road and see more stadiums. It's kind of ironic, like the Tom, I'll use Tom as an example. Tom moves out to Wisconsin, and he can't really go to the Packers game. He's closer to the Packers now. We can't really go to the games because he has to cover them, right? And like for me, like I want to go to more stadiums, but I also have to work and look at them in Google Earth. It's a little bit of a balance there, but gosh, is there a stadium that I have to? I've already seen Wrigley. Like Wrigley was a must. Um, I want to see them all, but I think SoFi Stadium is definitely a stadium that I just have to take in because of it, the marvel of it. I got to see Madison Square Garden. I got to see all the historical ones that I've seen Fenway. I've been to Camden Yards, so many times. Um, but I think SoFi is really important to go to, and probably Lambeau at some point. I should go to, and it's just as far as ranking them, like they're all amazing, So at some point, I'll get there, you know.
Absolutely. So then, kind of started out as 5 Points Gaming. What kind of engineered or kind of inspired your transition to doing those more list style videos and the sports content more?
Yeah, I mean, I started out as a Madden channel, and I was just having fun, but I wasn't really getting any traction. Like I also just didn't care as much about what I was talking about. And just like my ADHD personality um kind of lends itself to hyper concentration. It also lends itself to getting really into something and then really not getting and then being not into it anymore rather quickly sometimes. I wouldn't They're like mini addictions. Like, they say I think I have an addictive personality, but it's only for a short time. Right. So I got sick of Madden after a while. I was just like, fucking Madden sucks, man. Like it just got awful. Like these guys that have been playing Madden now since for gosh, basically their whole lives since like Madden 11, a lot of these kids, Bengal and you know, Bordeaux and all them that still can, or RBT, that still continue to play Madden every year. I get it, it's a game and it's just like a new season every year. But at some point, like I just got sick of it. I was just like, all right, this game is not is it is what it is. It's as good as it's going to get. And so I got into NHL, like the it kind of like the games that I played kind of were reflective of what teams were New York teams were good at the time. Like if the so I got into Madden because the Giants had won the Super Bowl. I got into NHL because the Rangers started getting good. And then after a while, I was just like, you know what? It's not about games. I just love sports. Let me talk about sports. And I started making NHL videos and I was really into the NHL, but then I was like, you know what? The NHL is too small of an audience. Let me expand this to other sports. And then I was like, all right, now I'm doing all sports. And then I kind of, swung a 180 to stadiums. I was like, wow, stadiums are really appealing to everyone. Like, you don't have to be a football fan to be like, all right, that's a cool stadium, even though it could be it could be a team you don't even care about. You're like, all right, I don't like the Raiders, but that's a cool looking stadium that they have in Las Vegas. So I've kind of chased not only where I'm interested, but kind of where the audiences will meet me too. Because ever since this has become a job, it's kind of been different, like you don't want to just continue to cover a topic that no one's interested in for sure.
Yeah. And then kind of go back a little bit. You kind of mentioned like Ritalin and its properties, and you went into Adderall and the other medications. And speaking of jobs, your previous job before that, as I understand it, you're working in marketing with the cancer company, right?
Yeah, yeah, I was in sales and marketing with both a pathology lab and a hematopathology lab, and yeah, we it was definitely it was lucrative and it was fun at times, but I was like, I don't like this either, like it just seemed very disingenuous. And I see people that would stay in it their whole careers and they make a lot of money and they retire and then they get to do what they love. But I didn't want to live like that anymore. I just again got kind of bored with it. And it's tough. It's a tough job. And working for someone else is just beyond annoying. Like people just the dynamics of corporate America are just it's not fun to deal with. I think anyone that has a job, whether you work in the service industry, in anywhere where you work for, even in the smallest capacity or even a high capacity, your patience for um, that environment can wear thin.
Yeah, absolutely. And then uh and then why that happened. Um so and in that transition also, you kind of mentioned earlier how you weren't exactly like a math person and all that type of stuff, but now in the videos you're doing about baseball and the fields and all the architecture of everything, you're incorporating a lot of math into that. What did that
Mhm.
kind of transition happen to where it kind of was it just because it became fun for you? Is how all that started getting in there?
Yeah, I say I don't like math. It's something that as long as it's presented or I can understand it, I can do it. And I love spreadsheets. And for some reason, I guess it's sort of like making a miniature piece of art. I don't look at, sorry, excuse me. Some people can just do math in their head and it's easy for them. It's kind of natural. It's like singing or drawing or painting. Well, for me, like I have to draw or paint the math to make it understandable, but I can do it, and I end up coming up with a lot of fun things and a lot of fun diagrams and a lot of fun explanations of things. But yeah, when I need to figure something out, I will go and do it for sure. And the thing is architecture is not about necessarily the aesthetic, it's about the math first and whether or not that structure can hold X amount of pounds. And yes, they try to make the structure look pleasing, but their goal always is this functionally safe? And or how do we do that? We need a roof over these people's heads. How do we do that safely? We can't just hang it up there. So math is important, and you see its manifestation in a lot of stadiums. And yeah, anytime I dive into a project that I really wish I had, there were better tools available to me that to do even more extensive research, because I love learning obscure facts or data that a lot of people don't, think exists or even look at or think to look at.
What would you say are like the, I guess, in your opinion, of like stadium design, what would you say is one of the few things that would be mandatory? Like a good stadium needs to have this in its design.
No polls anywhere. Like that to me is unacceptable. I remember when the ballpark in Arlington, when they built the section in right field, and it had poles, I thought that was just unacceptable. It is expensive to build a cantilever and to design it that way to not have any obstructions in the upper deck, but if you can't build something that has that. And then also, smart wide concourses where there's not a lot of crowding, and those are also features that I believe are must have. So um, it's it's important to just not have crowding and obstructed view seats.
So, we kind of crossed among all the different sports, but would it be fair to say that baseball is the one true one right there, that that's your first and last, like, all-time favorite sport?
Correct. Yeah, I love football. Football is, probably the most fun to cover, but baseball is the sport that I actually love. I don't, I cover football, but I love baseball.
What is it about baseball that just kinda calls to you and just makes it such the spectacle and the sport that, people should follow?
Well, number one, I understand it the best because it was the sport that I could play with the most confidence. You don't have to be necessarily fast to play baseball. You don't have to be necessarily big, tall, or strong to play baseball. You can actually make it pretty far not being a freak athlete in baseball. Football, you're gonna get exposed, like, right away. If you're not fast, you're done in football. You can't be unless you're something highly skilled like a kicker or a punter, and even then, you gotta be kind of a freak. Basketball, you get exposed, like, a right away. Um, if you're there's only 5 guys on the court, and if you're not confident and you can't do one specific thing, like even dribble to your left, like, they're gonna find out that you're not a baller pretty quickly. In hockey, of course, they can tell if you can't even skate. They're like, whatever. But baseball, you could play a whole game, an entire game, and no one would know that whether you're necessarily good or bad, or you could look good and have terrible results, or you could look bad and have fantastic results. Like baseball is one of those games where it's very built upon specific skill, and I had enough specific skill to get pretty far with it. So, that's why I like baseball. And just it's a game of patience, it's a game of building, and it's a team sport with individual, accomplishments and accolades. Like, you have your own batting average, you have your own fielding percentage, but you're alongside your team and you're trying to win. And that to me is like the best of both worlds, because it's pretty rare that even in a lot of jobs where you get recognized individually for your accomplishments and what you do. But baseball, there's no hiding from your batting average. When it's good, it's really good. When it's bad, it's terrible. So, but in a lot of environments in life, there's people that are horrible at their jobs. but they don't. It's hard to call them out. You know, they don't have a batting average, uh, and then there are people that uh, that work really hard. Sometimes you work really hard and you do a great job and you're not applauded for it. But baseball, there's no hiding from a mistake, and there's no hiding from something good. That's the shitty part is, when you make a mistake, everybody knows it was you for sure. And it's not fun, but that's where, other things that apply to real life really can be seen on a baseball field. Accountability, things, owning mistakes and getting another chance, which is great. It's a nice extended metaphor for real life.
So with all that being said, is that kind of what not only made baseball America's pastime, but the main reason why, despite challengers like the NFL and soccer, is that why it still kind of remains popular culturally?
It's still popular, but like football really has this thing that is going to be tough to compete with going forward. Football is a soap opera now, and I've really kind of figured it out. It's a television show with sports involved. Like all the games, you wait every week for the games. There's a cycle. Every Monday is wrap up, watch Monday Night Football. Tuesday's power rankings. Wednesday is injury reports and scouting. Thursday is previewing. Friday is, relaxing, getting ready for the weekend. Saturday, you watch college football. And then Sunday it is the show and you start all over again. And it's a very compelling narrative. Football really has something that a lot of the other sports don't have. And there's no other sport where they all stop for 1 week and then get together and play on Sunday. Baseball. That's also what's lovable about baseball is like it's going on every day. They take very few breaks. You fall in love with individual teams. Football is very easy to fall in love with the whole sport, and that's why I think football has gained traction and kind of taken over because um, as much as Americans, as we say, we want instant gratification and we want things served to us right now, now, now. We like waiting for things and we like the patience and the build up and which is ironic because baseball in execution is like that, but football has become like a TV show in that regard. Like how many shows do you watch where you wait for every episode? Like that's how you know that you're really into a show is you're like, all right, I'll wait a week for this. Personally, I like waiting till the whole series is done so I can watch it whenever I want. But then good shows come out and you're just stuck waiting for the next season, and that's how football is. They get you like that. And football can just go on forever, you know.
Do you think that, I mean, like, all the controversy, concussions, all that aside, do you think the kind of more accessibility with football where all you really need is just a big open field and one ball when compared to like baseball where you need gloves and bats and all that type of stuff? Do you think that ease of accessibility is why football might slowly start growing beyond baseball, beyond just like all the TV stuff?
I mean, a little. Yeah, baseball comes with a lot of equipment. You need a bat, glove, but football itself, at a youth level, that's where basketball has a huge advantage to a lot of sports is that it's just you just need a hoop and a ball. Football, man, the logistics of it when my kids played or when one kid played football, well, both of them played football. It's like there's a lot of equipment, there's a lot of practice involved, there's weekly practice. Um, it that's where I think football loses ground. But yeah, baseball, there's no such thing as like pickup baseball. But really, there's not much, you can't just go to a park and play football. Football is also a very restrictive game in terms of participation. It's easier to go play pickleball than it is. And that's why pickleball is just growing in popularity because you can show up at any pickleball court with a paddle You don't even need to bring a ball, and you can. It's co-ed. You're gonna have a good time. You're gonna exercise. Your meet. Like there's a whole social circle around it. But no, I'm not going to sold out stadiums to watch pickleball. I tell you that. But I just feel like football. There are going to be pluses and minuses. There are going to be issues, but I think the ecosystem of sports is that everyone has its unique and lovable qualities, and it's easy to love all of them. For me, anyways.
Do you think there'll ever be a time where maybe it's the NFL will kind of grow to a place to become quote unquote the new America's pastime beyond stuff like baseball? Or is there a place for like everything?
I'd
Because
say it's already there. Yeah, I mean, football's on top now. It's not going to really change. It's going to continue to grow. The only thing that they've worked really hard on trying to manage the concussions, but it's a contact sport. People are going to get hit. That's what we love about it. But the problem is the consequences of those hits. Football players are permanently injured. They can't have it both ways. They can't have no contact and all contact. It's I get it. They're trying to eliminate the injuries, but some guys are just going to get maimed. Even in baseball, a game that's completely non-contact, there are some life debilitating injuries, but not many guys have. Like in hockey, the amount of concussions from hockey is crazy. But also, these guys love it. These athletes, they grow up hitting, and they do not shy away from contact at all. It's crazy as a guy who's my size, 5'11", 175, 180 pounds, will go and try to tackle Derrick Henry without fear. It's just like, all right, this is what I do. I'm not crazy. And yeah, they might get stiff armed or thrown down, but like that's what they do. Their confidence in themselves is amazing. But um I just feel like that's the only weakness in football's armor is the contact and the concussions. But they're trying to address it and get in front of it. If it was never a problem, if they did, if these players didn't come out and explain their problems that they've had, that no one would bat an eye about it, honestly. But it's become a real thing. When you see guys like Junior Seau and these tragic stories happening, it brings alertness to it for sure.
so besides the obvious of just the NFL being this big, expansive machine that's incorporating soap operas and everything like that, what, in your opinion, do you think is part of the reason why baseball has kind of declined over this past few years, as far as like viewership and
Uh
attendance?
some people just don't have the patience for it. Um the thing is, baseball lives and dies in the youth, and I think the youth of baseball is strong. There's a ton of kids that play baseball. There's a ton of kids that are shying away from the contact of football, and they want to play baseball. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to keep those dates full. Stadium is full. I'm sorry. Like, they're just they're trying their best, and yeah, and it's getting more and more expensive to attend sporting events, and when you only have a certain amount of dollars to spend, and you want to spend them on football, if it eats into everything. It's really inexpensive for me to just go by myself to a game, but when you start adding a family, your friends, putting together an event to go, like it starts to, everyone's, you know, it's not that bad to go individually, but eventually go taking family, your wife, your kids, all that stuff, it starts to add up big quickly for sure.
So, and then, we kind of talk about that change. Well, you mentioned it, like the youth being the main driver of baseball. So, what is it that, like, because the NFL has grown past it right now, but with the jump start that baseball has, you have the Little League championships being a big deal. There's not really that kind of fandom for Pee Wee football. So, what is it about baseball that kind of lends itself to having like this big celebration about it with the little leagues and not stuff like kids basketball or junior hockey or stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no like no one celebrates the national championship of Pop Warner football the way that Little League is applauded. It's just not as big a deal. I guess, that's reserved for college. They've just done a good job of making youth their youth product exciting, and they've had it for a long time. I think they've just kind of bought into that, and then there's no travel. I mean, all football when you're young is travel football. Like you're always traveling to other cities to play football. And then every level above that, high school, you're traveling all over whatever your geographic area is to play in high school. But baseball, yeah, they've done a good job of keeping their youth from the Little League World Series is special. They were the first, and they've maintained their grip on a championship that 13-year-olds and under can aspire to achieve. So they've just done a good job marketing it and keeping it strong. Plus, it's international too. Like they've been smart about it.
So, with all that being said in the comparison, what is your pitch to a person has a choice to attend a sporting event? What is your pitch to that person on what makes baseball a great sport and why you should go to a game live?
Just the atmosphere, the fun, the excitement. It's a good use of your time where you can just take in the surroundings, enjoy the game, watch and observe. It's not loud. Um, it's just it's peaceful in a way, and it's still interesting enough to keep you compelled and watch it. There's enough action that happens. There's home runs and things, and there's players like even the most average major league game. Nothing, I tell you, nothing. None of their hits are cheap. None of their plays are cheap. It's a good product, and it's always fun to go to a baseball game. So to me, it's a very easy sell to me personally to go to a baseball game because I know I'm gonna get my money's worth. I know I'm gonna be entertained.
So, within the past couple years, you've kind of expanded to actually, starting to actually play the game with the melon heads and having the YouTube pros and Joes type of things. So, having done all that experience, what has that kind of showed you from like a fan perspective when like maybe you watch baseball on TV and you're like, oh, that looks easy, I could totally do that, and then you start playing the game and it's like, whoa, I completely took this for granted.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to criticize athletes when you play, and you see how difficult it is to um, do what they do. But at the same time, when you compare them to their peers, where guys make the difficult things or routine things look easy, when you see a bunch of guys do it over and over again, you're like, okay, that's a standard thing that you should be able to do. But I am less critical of athletes now, and in fact, the more I play, the more I respect what they do, and the more I understand how your body can just let you down and just kind of give up, like betray you. Like you're just like, oh, I thought I had that catch, or I thought I had that play, and it just doesn't happen that way. Which is also a beautiful thing about sports is it just doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes a quarterback misses a wide open throw and the game hinges on that, or there's a pass that is right in the guy's hands and he just drops it. So yeah, the more I play, the less I criticize.
What in particular was something that kind of humbled you when you actually had to do it in an actual game?
Hmm. I mean, throwing's tough. Like, gosh, like especially as I get older. Like when I was younger, the thing is, when you're younger, it's a lot easier to do things. Just you see it, you can do it. Like I was way more athletic at age, 17, 18 than I am now. Like it last year was really challenging for me throwing the baseball, and it's weird to look at your body and just be like, why am I not doing what I've done for so long? But things change. You can't execute the same way. So like I used to play third base, and it was not a problem to get the ball across the diamond. Now it's like I don't even, it feels like a mile across the field, and I'm like, why is this so difficult? You know, it's tough to deal with when you get older.
And then one of your more recent ish videos that went viral and kind of blew up was the video you took of glow in the dark baseball.
Huh.
How did that relationship kind of start? And then what is your opinion on how alternative forms of baseball, like, glow in the dark, banana ball, minor league games with, the constant changing of the mascots and all this change in fandom and events and promotions, like where did all that where does that fit in baseball in your opinion, and how did that relationship with glow in the dark baseball start?
Yeah, it's great. It's great for the game because I saw that they were gonna do glow in the dark baseball, and I was like, Tri City. I had no idea where that is. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, that's 20 minutes from where I live. And I sent them a message. I was like, hey, can I come to this? And they were instantly all over it. They were like, "Yeah, man, we see what you're doing. You can definitely come and cover it." And then I took a video, and that one went viral. And then the next year, then they reached out to me in the off season. They were like, "Hey, we're doing something different this year. Do you want to cover it?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah." So I went to the first game, and I took that video, and that one just completely blew up. I wasn't really surprised, like, I knew it'd blow up, but then it just kept going, and, it has 25 million views on, Instagram and 13, almost 14 million on TikTok. Like, it went crazy. And then from there, I was like, "Hey, I wanna do more stuff with you guys," and they were all about it, and they're such an awesome promotion, and they're really just, they're honest and good people, and I wish them all the success, going forward, and I hope to do more stuff with them in the future. But yeah, I think them, Banana Ball, like, they're really raising awareness to alternative baseball productions that is better than, like the Globetrotters are great, but they've kind of just they're not as they're losing their luster while the banana ball is growing and getting even more popular. And it's a great place for athletes that were, either not good enough for pro ball or have retired, or to find a space and continue to play ball and have fun doing it. So yeah, getting to meet all the athletes and associating with them was also really fun this summer as well.
What, in your opinion, kind of separates like the Globetrotters, who it's just kind of basically just a scripted entertainment thing, from something like Banana Ball, where it is entertainment, but they are actually legitimately playing the game of baseball? What kind of
Yeah, they're
separates?
trying to win. I think that's also a great angle to it, is that it's not just a promotion. Like, yeah, there are some things that are manipulated about it, but not to the point, like the not to the point where it matters too much. You know, like people are out there, they're being competitive, they're trying to win, and it adds that layer of competition. Like the Generals never beat the Globetrotters. It's kind of a pro wrestling thing, and the Globetrotters are great. Don't get me wrong; like they do some amazing things, but yeah, you just don't see as much of them compared to the Bananas, or even the Cosmic Tour.
And then, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about this, because obviously, where did the transition come from the unnamed show to the dumpster fire, and how did that relationship with Tree even begin?
So first saw a tree, like I saw a lolcow video, and I was like, "What is this? What is this crap?" He was talking about the Browns or something, and then I was like, "This guy's good. Like I like his stuff." And then I saw him do a lolcow video on the Jets, and I was like, "This guy's hilarious, like, he's really funny." And I was just coming up on YouTube. I think I had 80,000 subs, and he we kinda were in the same space, like, a lot of people, like, we had just figured out that we can talk over sports and could comment on it and take clips, and like a lot of people sort of arrived at that same, like KTO, Flemlo, a lot of other people. We all kind of just arrived at the same conclusion that we could do this. And I just sent a message. I commented on one of Tree's videos. I was like, "Man, you're really good, dude. Like, I like your stuff." And he was like, "Oh, cool." He saw that I had just as like everybody liked that comment. They're like, "Oh shit, Five's like giving you your flowers," like my audience kind of started crossing over with his. And then I followed him on Twitter. He followed me back. I was like, "Yo, dude, let's do a live stream together." And he was like, "All right, man, let's figure it out." And then it was such a disaster the first time. We used like Discord, I think, to stream it. And then it just kept evolving and getting better and better, and it is what it is now. But that was 2017. So it's been almost 8 years we've worked together. It's crazy, but yeah, the dumpster fire has been a fun part of my life for sure.
And then, I wanted to ask you about because, recently you hit a milestone with your subscribers or trying to hit that milestone. And, Perna was the one who posted on his community page that you were one of the first ones to kind of like reach out and kind of support him. How did that whole thing kind of start?
Yeah, so actually I met Perna through Tree. Oops. Um Tree, like I had known about I saw Perna's stuff before. I was like, this guy's funny. But he's Broncos fan. I don't know what that whether I'm gonna be able to like that. And then Tree was like, "Yo, I've been talking to this guy Brandon." I was like, "Oh, that's good sports. I like his stuff." And then somehow we all got together, and then usually through Twitter, and I was like, "Hey, dude, um, I really like your stuff. And then we started talking. I think we had him as a guest on the dumpster fire. And that's really how a lot of things get kicked off is, when we have people as a guest on the dumpster fire and then we become friends. They figure out that we're not bad at all, And then but then one time I was like, "Hey Brandon, like uh your thumbs, like your thumbnail, your content is amazing, but I think your thumbnails are holding you back. Like maybe just tweak this here and there." And I kind of gave him some specific advice, and then he changed them, and he fought it, and but then he changed them, and then things started getting better. Like thumbnails are really important on YouTube. It's not that he was bad or being that he was, I'm not saying that I knew more than him. I was just seeing a pattern, and I was like, all right, this is just some constructive criticism, and he applied that, and it worked. And then what's crazy is in turn, Brandon saw that I quit my job and was like, "Hey, dude, did you just go full time with YouTube?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, then you need an agency to rep." I was like, "An agency? I don't know what you're talking about." And he's like, "Here, let me introduce you to my friend Spencer." And then so he actually, and he trust me, he paid it forward. He's being humble when he writes things like that. Like he's had my back and has supported me. What I would say 10 times more than I have of him, but he's very humble in that regard, and he would never brag or bring it up. But he introduced me to the management company that we've had now for almost, gosh, 7 6 7 years, 6 7. But we just yeah, we've been friends for a long time, and it's worked out, and I'm really happy for his success. He's only 200K away from a million, which at the time when I met him, um I think I had double what his subscribers, and now he has double of mine. So it's pretty cool.
Kind of funny that you mentioned the thumbnail thing because, to be completely honest, like, I think you were the 3rd member of clickbait that I kind of found because I found, I think, Tree first and then Perna, and then I had seen your videos that came across my feed, but it was you mentioned the thumbnails, it kinda it was kind of the clickbaity thumbnails at the time with the circles and all that type of stuff. I'm like, "Am I really gonna" I don't know, it kinda drew me off, but then I just clicked on one and, I fell in love with it ever since then. Like, your videos are some of the best that I watched, and, you know, we kinda mentioned it a little bit, like, on the dumpster fire and everything, but, the main reason, why, I'm, additionally just grateful that you coming on here, but, the gifts and everything like that, like, the main reason why I do that for you guys is just because, like, I genuinely, like, do really, really like you guys' content, and, I've had periods of unemployment over the past few years where I've been unemployed for maybe, like, 9 months or something, and in between that rat race and trying to keep everything together, like, those Tuesday nights were what really kind of gave me that sense of solace and that escape for that hour, hour and a half or whatever. So for me, naturally, finding things that would just be, not only memes, but funny and but still kind of have that touch of sentimentality. That's why I send you guys that type of stuff. And it just means the world to me when I do see it like on stream or everything like that. Like I don't do it for any type of attention or I didn't do it to kind of build connections. I just did it because I genuinely wanted to give you guys something as a thank you for like all the stuff that you guys do. So, hearing all that and, how this all comes together, like that really all means a lot, honestly.
Well, it means a lot to us equally. Like we to get that recognition from you and to hear that and to feel that us just talking shit about sports actually has meaning in other people's lives really does make it really does validate it and make it more fun to do. And yeah, if our show means a lot to you, you supporting us means just as much. And we appreciate the gifts, and I personally appreciate them. I think they're funny too, like getting a Daniel Jones card or the little statue, like all those things mean a lot to us. And when we're down and it's not, being the content creator isn't as glamorous, or it's not as easy as it looks. And there's some days where we doubt ourselves, and there's some days where we're not feeling good, or we upload a video and it completely tanks and we're questioning a lot of what we're doing. So when we get support and we get things, in the terms of actual gifts, like it pumps us up, and it keeps us going. So we appreciate you too, for sure.
Yeah, I mentioned it when I interviewed Tree, but what I told him was, one of the dumpster fires that always has a sentimentality to me is the one you did with him and Darian during COVID when the world was basically on fire. And that just holds a sentimentality to me of the point in time where it was at when, I was with my ex at the time and I had dropped her off in Las Vegas maybe a week before to spend time with with friends of ours. And, I can remember just putting that on 3 o'clock in the morning as I'm traveling down the road heading into Vegas from California and just hearing, the raw honesty and what was going on at the time in the world and just hearing everything from you guys to speak so honestly about what was going on. And, it was just kind of that connectivity of like we're all going through this chaos together and we don't have to be afraid to kind of say what we feel and not only share those opinions, but also be able to connect to the humanity of what's going on. And I can still remember just hearing you guys talk and seeing the sun rise over the California Nevada desert as I'm listening to you guys doing that. So as crazy as that sounds, that would be that is one of my all time favorites, just because it has that connection to me. When during that time, like kind of how did it feel going through your mind when you were just kind of deciding like, yeah, we should go through this and have a conversation about everything?
Yeah, it was those were rough times, especially after George Floyd happened. A lot of people were upset about a lot of things. I think we were getting sick of being indoors. And those kind of things were a long time coming, honestly. Like all that tension and anger was going to come out, and it didn't just come out in social media. It started coming out in the streets, and we just need to be open and honest about what was going on, because I think too many people weren't being. It seemed like a very disingenuous time where a lot of misinformation was being spread and a lot of bullshit was being spread, and we just wanted to talk about how life was from our open and honest position. And it just, we were just being real, and that time really sucked. When you don't have sports and you talk about sports and you don't know when sports are coming back, it's very there's a lot of anxiety around that, and we felt it for sure, and we just wanted to talk it out. And um yeah, it is what it is. I hope that that never happens again. That was awful. That was really truly an awful time period in our lives. um, there was some good that came out of it, but mostly it was bad. We
Yeah,
prefer to solve our problems without being locked in our houses.
absolutely. I'm just glad, even though it's been 5 years and, arguably there are still very tiny things, we're still moving past them. And it's just nice to have that back. But I just wanted to share that with you because that, I mentioned the connect, like that was really a point of connection at the show where I kind of just really connected with you guys, like right there in that moment.
Hmm.
And that's just always something that's going to stick with me for the longest time. Um,
Yeah, that was those yeah. I You guys at home got what we were really feeling for sure.
and so we haven't talked a lot of Giants yet, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity to do a kind of a little bit of an immaculate grid type of thing. And I did it with Tree too. So I was just wondering if can you name since since Eli's streak ended, can you name all 11 starting quarterbacks for the Giants since Eli Manning?
Oh gosh. Uh, you have the list in front of you?
I do,
We
yes.
we have Daniel Jones, Jake Fromm, Mike Glennon, Drew Lock, Tyrod Taylor, Geno Smith. How many we're at 6 now? Russell Wilson, Tommy DeVito, Jackson Dart. We're at 9. So there's 2 more, right?
Yep.
Oh gosh. Who am I forgetting? Since Eli Manning, I'm missing somebody. Um,
One of them used to be a Brown
oh
and got
boy.
leveled by James Harrison.
Damn it. Who am I thinking of? There's somebody. There's a white guy. There's 2 white guys.
That is correct.
Gosh, since Eli Manning. Man, I did really well. Gosh.
Out of Texas.
Oh, Colt McCoy.
Okay.
And then gosh, I forgot Colt McCoy played for us.
And then this other one, I think he was out of Cal, I believe.
Oh, gosh. Without looking it up, I forgot Colt McCoy played for the Giants. These are all quarterbacks not starting like they started a game for us.
Yep.
Oh my god. This one's gonna be tough. You gotta give me more clues. Like I completely forgot about Colt McCoy. Um
I mean, he's not related to Joe Webb, but they share a last name.
oh, Davis Webb started a game. I can't believe that. When did he start an actual game for the Giants? It must have been that when they were out of it completely and they just put him in there to start a game. I forgot about that. I forgot that Davis Webb started an actual game. And I would have never remember. I completely erased Colt McCoy as a Giant. I
He,
com-
sta- he started a game right in between Jake Fromm and right before Tommy DeVito. So somewhere in that year.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, there was like an injury. I can't believe Jake Fromm and Mike Glennon both started games. Mike Glennon was terrible. But yeah, I got them all except for the 2 most obscure ones. I couldn't bel I forgot about Davis Webb. Holy shit. That was good. That was a tough question right there.
Yep.
Props.
I asked you the same question about the Steelers ones, and then
Oh
also.
gosh, you would have Mason Rudolph. Since who? Since Ben Roethlisberger?
Yep.
Mason Rudolph, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Duck Hodges, did Kenny Pickett. There's another guy,
Michael Vick.
Landry Jones. Landry Jones started a game. Yeah. Um, how many? There's how that's 7. How many do I have left?
Oh, there was way more because like every
Oh,
person said everything since Big Ben started. So that'd be going back to his rookie year when he started having injuries. You also have like um Dennis Dixon and Charlie Batch, Michael Vick.
oh my gosh, Michael Vick. Did he get them all? How many did he get?
I think he got them all actually.
He probably would. He's very autistic when it comes to knowing certain things. Yeah, he probably got them. I erase things from my memory. I'm not saying autistic in any type of negative way at all.
Yeah, it's not.
Like tree that he is autistic. Now let's get that straight. But also like that is a quality that you would have is remembering those type of things, and he is very indicative of that.
I only remember Michael Vick because I'm a Chargers fan, and it was that Monday night game where Le'Veon Bell ran in for that last second touchdown.
Wow. Yeah.
And then, oh yeah,
That's
Byron
crazy.
Leftwich. Byron Leftwich was
Byron
also in that.
Leftwich, I forgot about big Byron Leftwich. Charlie Batch, bunch of quarterbacks. But yeah, there were times where Roethlisberger he wasn't as reliable as Eli. Eli was there pretty much every game. I think Derek no, David Carr was his backup. Jared Lorenzen was his backup. But David Carr was the backup for a while. And I think the second Super Bowl 46, who was that? Who was the backup for Eli Manning in that? Let me see. I'm looking it up. I cannot even remember. It might have been Carr. Yeah, that was David Carr. I was correct.
Oh yeah, he didn't
Yeah.
retire until
And
like
then
2011.
yeah, Jared Lorenzen was his backup in 2008, and David Carr was his backup in 2012. So
So I think I don't want to keep you much longer since we're getting close to 10 o'clock your time, but I just wanted to close out with this final part here. So part of my inspiration for why I wanted to do the podcast in the first place was Inside the Actor Studio. It was that great show with James Lipton where he would interview actors and all that. And he always ended with the questionnaire. And so I kind of took the questionnaire and took some questions from it, then added my own. So we'll just kind of go through the questions here.
okay.
What is your favorite word?
My favorite what? Word?
Yeah, word.
Word? Oh, Susquephalian. It means someone who uses big words to impress people.
What is your least favorite word?
Gosh, biscuit. It doesn't make sense. I don't know how you get kit out of CUIT. It's pretty stupid, if you ask me.
What turns you on?
Uh, like big hits, like in football, like big hits are like get me going. Like I like seeing guys just get leveled. That's awesome.
What turns you off?
Ticky tack penalties, like that, where people just get touched and they call it a penalty.
What is your favorite curse word?
Probably fuck. Fuck's pretty good. It's universal. Yeah.
What brings you peace?
Sometimes just being alone. Sometimes just shutting everything off and not interacting with anyone is peaceful.
What riles you up?
Ooh, anyone insulting my intelligence kind of gets me going. Like if you think you can trick me or something or outsmart me, that pisses me off.
What job or career other than your own would you like to attempt?
Ooh, I mean, maybe social media for a major sports team would be fun, or just like uh, yeah, that'd be fun.
What job would you not like to do?
I don't ever want to do sales again. I mean, I can do it. I just don't like it. I didn't like it.
If there is an afterlife, what would you like to experience when you first arrive?
Ooh, I'd like to see, relatives, my dad, anyone that I've lost in the past, and just ask them what they've been up to.
What do you believe is the legacy you'll leave behind?
Ooh, a lot of bad dad jokes.
And then, if you could share one piece of advice with the entire world, what would it be?
Ooh, just don't be afraid to fail. Like, go ahead and go all in on your dreams if it makes sense. And failure. This is a line I learned from Casey Neistat. Failure sucks, but the pain of not trying is way worse than the pain of failure.
And ladies and gentlemen, there you have it from the bald man's word, from the bald man's lips to your ears, Mr. 5 Points Vids. I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on here again, and I just appreciate going through this whole journey with you.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks, Vinny, and thanks for all the gifts. And it's been fun.
Absolutely. Now, I don't have a next guest scheduled per se, like I kind of hope to have with, like I had with the tree, and then getting you right after. But whenever I do get my next guest, is there just a question that you think I should ask them?
Ooh, ask them. Uh, what their favorite Twitter account is to follow.
All right, that sounds like a fun one to ask. That'll be interesting
Yeah.
to see.
Or who do they watch on YouTube too? Like who do they, like not related to their industry or anything? Who do they sit down and watch that, people would be surprised?
Are you trying to
Uh
fish? Are you trying to fish for that NASCAR answer again, like you did in that one video?
no, 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 no. I'm always surprised, like, because I asked Bengal this and he's like, I watched this Djibouti dubs. It was really funny. This guy that just he dubs over commercials and stuff, and it's funny. Like there's so many weird and different YouTube channels out there that people like Giraffe Neck Mark. He watched this guy that goes around and just trades things. Like he goes to swap meets and buys things and then trades them. I was like, you watch this? He's like, yeah. It's uh, it's kind of cool when you find some type of niche content that only you like, and I get it for sure.
And with that being said, if you're watching this, we just thank you for watching this, and everybody at home. This has been Vincent Rodriguez for the Slap in VR, and we're signing off right here. So thank you again.
All right, see you guys later.